Buongiorno, buonasera, benvenuti amici, welcome my friends. My name is Vincenzo and welcome to the channel. And the channel is Fountain Pen Therapy, and the therapy is another weekly recap for you folks. A little bit different stuff that we're going to have this week, just because in this hobby, it's been, years that we've been doing this, and it never ceases to amaze me how every week we learn and we keep learning. There's I think an infinite amount of knowledge that one requires or that one can discover in this hobby, and it's fascinating. And the viewers help because I have very knowledgeable viewers. Yes, some are beginners and they ask beginner questions, and they are more than welcomed, and I love to be able to guide them as much as I can. But several of you are very, very experienced collectors, and you give me tips about all kinds of things, and I received a couple of tips, and we're going to review some stuff. I've also been looking at alternate ways of getting pens, and I think I found one with the help of Doodlebud. And so without any further ado, I've got tons of stuff to go over. Fountain Pen Therapy presents this week's weekly recap for March the 29th, 2026. Okay, so we're back in market news. What have we got? Rather than going through my regular routine, I have, I think, three things that I want to cover in this segment with you. First of all, let's go to my overhead camera, my computer. Just a quick word. Here we go. Mahjong P140 has come out with this new color, which is kind of a green demonstrator. Frankly, I prefer the clear demonstrator over this one, but some of you might like that color version. So that's, I know it's new. I've seen it on the Amazon site as well. So Mahjong P140, if you like that pen and you want a variant in terms of color, there you go. The next thing I want to cover with you is the following. I have in my cart right now, let me just show you. This pen. Now this is it's just a pen in this different Macchier models, and some are more complex than others, and the price will vary accordingly. So for example, this gold version, which I really like, is $139, and you can get it for your Pilot 743. You can combine that. Now, it doesn't come, it just accommodates the Pilot 743. So it means you would have to take away your nib section, the entire nib and the section from your 743, and put it in this pen, and it would work. Okay? But I'm not sure I want to do that, frankly. So what I've put together is a little kit, and I'm going to test it, but I want you guys to give me your thoughts. I know I mentioned this before, and some of you pointed certain things out to me, and here's where I think it gets interesting. What I've come up with. I have a feed that will fit this 743 Yowo modified nib to fit in this pen. I have the pen that will accommodate, a Pilot 743 nib section. What I was missing was the actual collar or the section itself that can accommodate this nib and the feed that I have. And I found it on Flexi Nibs. It's a Yowo number 6 housing for Pilot 743, and it even has a Pilot converter nipple. So you can use a Pilot converter on it. So I think I'm going to combine all these three and see if I could create a 743 with one of these maquillé finishes. I think I'm going to go for it. What do you guys think? I know some of you mentioned that I was missing this housing, but maybe not now. Now I have it. I have the feed because I replaced my original 743 feed with an ebonite feed. I have the pen that accommodates a 743 nib section. I was missing the housing, and here it is. I think with this combination, and this would roughly cost me $130 here, plus I think this is $50, plus another $17. I think that, with less than $200, I can create a very beautiful pen. I'm going to go for it, folks, and I'll let you know how it works out. Okay, the next thing I wanted to deal with you guys is this website. I don't know if you've had a chance to take a look at the video presented by Doodlebud. He was approached by these people, Neokio. It's a website that kind of caters to Japanese products, okay? And it's a search engine and at the same time a online seller where you can look for pens. And you can look for pens in all of these sites, Rakuma, Mercari, etc., Rakuten, Amazon Japan, etc. And you actually even have one, you can click down here and say all of them, multiple stores, cross-search, so it will search all of them. So for example, this week, I'm looking for my Pelikan M600, okay? To my great surprise, look at this. I get a Pelikan M600 for $211. I mean, these things are going for like $800, $900. And you can keep going. For example, I searched Delta fountain pens. Take a look at this. I found Dolce Vitas of different sizes. Look at that. For like $300. I even found the Dolce Vita Mini. And I've found this pen for $300, a beautiful Delta pen. I mean, you keep going. So what you do is you place so for example, let's say I'm interested in this pen here. I click on it, and it would give me the price, and you create a buyer request. You create a buyer request. It then makes the pen available, and then you pay for it, and afterwards you arrange for shipping. What happens is that the seller of this particular pen sends it to Neokio, and then Neokio arranges to send it to you. Right now, I have in my account the following pens. I can show you. I have buy requests for this Vincenzo Signature limited edition. Okay. Now I've had several buy requests. These things are really hard to get. The signature Venzos, and I've gone through 3 buyer requests, and they all came back negative, where the buyers didn't have the pen anymore. I'm left, so you can see it's been deleted. But here I'm still waiting for one to come through. I've also purchased this other Lift Plus Wood mechanical pencil. I've purchased Tomoe River No. 7 machine original paper. And I've purchased an M400 and an M600. This M600 cost me $199, and this M400 cost me $161. Very good price. I mean, these things are going for, normally it would have cost me $800, $600 to $800 for the M400, and $800 to $900 for the M600. And both of these Pelicans have come through, and I'm going to have them delivered. We'll see I don't know what the shipping is going to cost me. That might be a surprise, but I will let you guys know. But I think it's worth, now, you know, when you click on Neokio, it's going to come up in Japanese, but there's an option for you to translate the whole site. And especially if you're looking for Japanese products, it's fantastic. And, you know, there's a lot of Japanese mechanical pencils and ballpoints of all kinds made out of wood, really limited editions. You've got pen cases that I've been trying to get my hands on, but they're Japanese sites that don't deliver to Canada. This thing allows you to make that bridge, if you will, bridges between the two. Take a look at the Doodlebud video. He goes through in a lot more detail how this site works. I'll keep you guys informed. Hopefully all of these will come through without any major obstacles. Doodlebud also has a coupon that you could use. He's got a special code, discount code. I think a first-time user on the site also gives you a discount code. So if you're looking for any Japanese products or even other pens like Pelikan, Pilot, Sailor, there might be some deals out there that you may be interested. Certainly for Pilot, for Pelikan, it's really come through for me, I can tell you. I'm looking forward to the both M400 and M600 to complete my series and my collection, and then make an ultimate video comparing them all and giving you my outlook on that. So there you have it. So that's what I wanted to mention to you guys for market news. I think that Neokio site is really now, and it's given me another approach for looking for pens. The other thing is AI is coming through a lot more now. You know, one of the viewers said, I know you wrote me a private memo, but a private email, but that's fine. I'm willing to share it. You know, you can, if you can get a good AI search engine, say what new pens have come out from this week, and it can give you quite a bit of information. So I think I'm going to use the AI engine just so that I could, quickly come up with some suggestions. Now it's limited. I think your search has to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. But AI can also help us find, where can I find Tomoe River paper original with the No. 7 machine? And it gave me all kinds of things. And I'm exploring that a little more, but I thought I'd mention I'm sure a lot of you have already, used AI. I haven't, frankly. My son keeps telling me, you got to use it, Dad. You got to use it. And you know what? He's starting to convince me. So there you have it on market news. Some tools for us, right? That's it for this segment. Stay tuned for the next. Be right back. Okay, so we're back. We're going to take a look at some paper and some inks. And for paper, it's been fascinating. I've been receiving all kinds of tips from the viewers as to where I could find paper that in their view are or is good alternative for Tomoe River paper as part of my ongoing challenge. And in the next couple of weeks, you will see some of those suggestions. I've ordered all of them, including one that appears to be not Bashuan paper from China, but another type of paper, which I'm very curious about. But stay tuned for that. You'll see that they will be coming in one at a time. And the challenge is getting longer and longer. But I think, I'm pretty well making up my mind as we go along. But I don't want to spoil it for you. But having said that, this notebook for this week was one of those suggestions. So I'm very, very anxious to see how this all works out. So let's go to my overhead camera and I'll show you what the studios have brought in. Okay, here it is. It's HEMLOCK and oak. And for stationary people, there are a lot of viewers who concentrate on journaling and journals and, stickers and all the rest of it. I use my paper to write on. I don't do stickers. I don't do, the journaling is really, the most that I do with these notebooks. I write with them, period. And HEMLOCK and oak appears to be a popular alternative or a popular journal. And one of the things is that, of course, you also have to look at whether or not, nice packaging, by the way. Oh, that is really nice. You also have to look at whether or not these notebooks how are they bound? Loose leaf is one thing, but loose leaf requires a binder. Do they have different sizes? Do they have different number of pages? Are we limited to a 50-page notebook? Or do we have notebooks that have several pages, several sizes? And it appears that HEMLOCK and oak right here, very nice cover, by the way, kind of a, sturdy, plasticized, jean-like or denim-like cover. I think they offer different varieties. I took the grid, not the dot grid, the grid, larger than usual. There's no page. Yes, there are page numbers. There's a page number, but it doesn't have any dates on it. It doesn't have calendars, not that I can think of. You start off with a page just to identify it. It's proudly made in Canada, so that was another reason why I thought I would go for it. It's 288 pages, so I'm really looking forward to putting some ink on this notebook. And of course, we will compare it to the Tomoe River. In terms of how it opens up, I think it takes a little bit of you getting used to. Not getting used to. In other words, you gotta, but I think it opens up very nicely. Thank you very much. Not a problem there. It appears to be very nicely bound as well. So very sturdy, nice size. There you have it. Their names are in the back, HEMLOCK and oak. So we will set up, get my Tomoe River paper and my tools, inks, and we'll be right back. Okay, we're back for the inks. Now, for the inks, I've been sitting on this collection of COLORVERSE 2026 Red Horse collection, for the Year of the Horse, Chinese Year of the Horse. I've been sitting on this and haven't really swatched them yet because I was hoping that I could combine this with a a pen from China that celebrates the Year of the Horse. I haven't seen any yet. We're now almost to we're at the end of March. I'm sure something will come up eventually, but I couldn't resist. I said, I think it's time that I open these suckers and see what gives. They're all on the red shadings, of course. This one is the glistening, shimmering dark green. This one is the glistening gold. This one is the glistening purple blue. And this one is standard red horse. So those are going to be the inks that we're going to be swatching. In terms of tools, I've decided to change it up. You know that usually I use this Coral Sailor dip pen. That's a stub along with the feed. But given that we're talking about Colorverse, I figured I'd take out my Colorverse dip pen. And I have 3 of them here, and they were all neatly, inserted, and I couldn't figure out which one was which, because I have a Kakamori, I have a Chinese clone, and I have the Colorverse. And thank God that if you look closely, you will see an inscription there. So this one is the Chinese, so we can put that back here. Go. This one, if you look closely, and I mean the camera is probably not going to pick it up, but this one is the Colorverse. There's Colorverse right there. I'm going to put Colorverse on this so we don't mix it up. And that's the one I'm going to be using. And this, of course, is the Kakamori. Maybe in the revisit, we'll just dip these pens and just kind of revisit them and see how they write and whether or not I'm getting kind of fed up of the Coral, and lately it's been kind of leaking on me, and it's doing crazy things. I don't know what it is, and so I said, you know what? Let's change it up. And of course, because we're dealing with Colorverse, I figured why not? Let's get a Colorverse dip pen out so we can do some swatching with the Colorverse inks. So put that aside. Bring in the water. Okay, now for I guess we could ink. Should I ink at the back? Never opens nicely at the back. Yeah, it doesn't. Well, you know what? I don't want to ruin the notebook completely, so we'll keep it open this way. It's a good test. I actually have. Yeah, this thing kind of will hold it down, so to speak, a little bit. And of course, we're going to get my Tomo River paper. So, Hemlock and Oak, Tomo River. Okay, so we're back. Look, I decided to retape this section. Well, I started recording, and I made a mistake. I forgot here to shake the bottle to get the shimmer going. Then the shimmers, depending, I guess, on the dip, I'm getting very different results. A little too different, in my view. It's got something to do with those particles not being properly, I think, properly shook. And I'm getting inconsistent swatching. Look at beautiful this one is compared to this very dull. Same here. It's like when I rub the first time, I'm getting nothing. And then when I keep going, I get something. So I decided that we're going to redo these properly. I also realized that perhaps when I wash out the folded pen, there may be some water there, and it's giving me bad results. With this particular ink, I feel that we need to be careful. So stay tuned. We're going to scrap this and start all over again. It just goes to show you, if you're going to test your inks, do it properly. Okay, fresh paper. We'll start all over again. This is Tomo River. This is Hemlock and Oak. I've also abandoned this Colorverse dip pen. I think it's horrible, and I just can't deal with it. Maybe artists can, because they are a little more able in terms of using that nib for artistic purposes. I just don't like it. I just want to write properly, and it just doesn't. And I'm going to shake these inks really well to make sure that we're not getting different swatches. But it leads me to believe that the shimmer in here must be so thick that if you don't shake it properly, it may just stick to the sides of the bottle, and so we shall see. Okay, we'll do this properly. Well, that's better. At least I'm getting a much darker shade. Here we go. And this is, I'm going to put a G for glistening, okay? Dark green. And it's Colorverse. So, dark green. Whoop, not enough. Yeah. I mean, I still think I'm getting different swatches, but not as bad as the last attempt. This is the gold. Look how thick it is. And I shake, and I think it's also got something to do with the bottle. It's not big enough to, and you know, the shimmer gets stuck in all these crevices, and not the best. Okay, so let me make sure my folded pen is nice and dry. Just for the fun of it, I'm going to do my first swatch here. This is gold. Wow, I really like that HEMLOCK and oak. So far, so good. I like the way it feels. So, this is the G gold. But even the way the nib is picking up the ink, it's like it has a hard time getting to the ink because of the shimmer. Look at this. It just, there's no red ink. It's all shimmer. That's could be an indication that this is not. And look, I'm getting so much more of the shimmer on the first dip than I do on the second. It's like it's almost, if you're not quick enough, everything goes down to the bottom. Look at that. This is the dark blue, no, the purple blue. It's like you've got to work quickly, otherwise everything kind of descends to the bottom, which could spell trouble for your pen. Okay, what? I'm going to just dip it a second time here. Here we go. This is supposed to be dark purple blue. So G purple. Again, I'm just not getting the red. And usually even this nib will pick up quite a bit of the ink, but I'm struggling to get any ink there. Folks. Not sure. I'm really not sure. I'm not a fan to begin with of, this is just a standard red. This might be probably my favorite because it doesn't have all that shimmer to deal with. Yeah, that's a nice deep brownish dark red. Kind of, yeah, that's nice. Forget about the shimmer, folks. I shouldn't say that. I know some of you are great fans of shimmer, and I'm sure somebody will tell me what I'm. Whoop! I forgot to. Let's see how it writes without the shimmer, and if it's just the nib. So this is just standard Red Horse. Well, certainly there's more red ink. But even then, it appears to be a very dry ink. So there you have it. I'm not sure I'm going to put any of these in my pens, but we shall see. Maybe I'll take some pens that I know that I'm not going to mess up. There you have it. I'm not sure that any of this really excites me. I'm just hoping that when it dries, we'll see something different and something that will. But for the time being, let's wait and see. We'll let this dry up and we'll be right back. Okay, so we're back. The inks are dried up. I got to tell you that you get a very different perspective once all the inks are dry. And they dry pretty quickly. So I've got a feeling that all these inks are fairly dry inks. The first one, which is supposed to be dark green, I'm having problems seeing the dark green. I can tell you in either one. But what's surprising is that HEMLOCK and Oak is giving me much better ink performance in terms of showing off the inks than the Tomoe River. Look at that. I mean, you can really tell on the gold. Look at the shimmer on the HEMLOCK and Oak as compared to the shimmer on the COLORVERSE, on the Tomoe River. This is much less than that one. Now, that could vary depending on the dip, especially with those bottles. But generally speaking, the blue-purple, I can see some of the blue-purple. At least that I could see. But again, I find that HEMLOCK and Oak is either better or at least the equivalent of Tomoe River. So if you're looking for an ink that or a paper that will show off your inks and wondering whether HEMLOCK and Oak will do the trick, I can tell you that so far it appears to do it very, very nicely. I'm also getting a little more shading on the standard red than I am in as compared to Tomoe River. So there you have it in terms of the ink, the way the inks are being shown off. And I also like the fact that the see-through is very minimal on the HEMLOCK and Oak. And as compared to the Tomoe River, you can see that it's very, very comparable. And surprisingly enough, there's very little bleed through or see-through with these inks. It leads me to believe that they might be, instead of super wet inks, they might be just drier inks. Also, when we look at red, generally red inks, in my view, have a tendency to crust up real quickly and dry your nibs, and your nib get all crusty with this red substance. So you got to be careful, I think, with red inks. That's been my experience. And if to boot you add some of this shimmer, I question whether or not I'm going to put any of those inks. I did want to get them to celebrate the Year of the Horse. Thought that would be appropriate. But I am seriously questioning whether I'm going to put any of these shimmering inks in any pens. And if it's going to be a pen, it's going to be a pen that I can quickly, maybe some cheaper Chinese demonstrator that I could chuck away if it gets ruined. But I certainly wouldn't put any of these inks in my Grail pens, that's for sure. So there you have it. Comparison of these inks. We'll be right back, and we're going to take a look at my haul for the week. Yes, indeed. Here is the pen. Pen comes in. I don't know if you can appreciate how big this box is. Very nice, classic, vintage style packaging. It is a vintage style pen. You know, it prides itself in being kind of a transition between, the past and the present. It has I think the trimmings and the look of a vintage, classic with the technology of a modern pen, if you will. And that's, I think, their main slogan for this pen, which they call the Internazionale, which is translated into the International. It's a limited edition. This is number 413, I believe, out of 999, if I'm not mistaken. So there you have it. That's the packaging. It comes in a kind of a big cardboard kind of a wrap, huge box. This is typical Aurora boxes. They're just different sizes for different pens. You open it up and they all work the same way. It kind of a flap opens up and you get an interior box. So we'll remove that from the picture. And here's that beautiful wooden box, very nice. And when you open it up, there you go. Very nice. It's on a soft bedding here. There's some ink that comes with it. Kind of a same motif. I will keep that under wraps. I will keep it wrapped up with the box. There is a booklet here giving you the, just a brochure, different pens, along with the international warranty, which we will leave in the little sleeve here. And here is the pen. Okay, so we'll shut that and I'll take a closer look at this pen. Okay, so here is the pen, a little closer look. Of course, I've already done a detailed review of this pen. It will be coming out soon, perhaps as early as next week. But I did want to give you a sneak peek at the pen right away. It's got the Aurora branding on the finial. On the side, it has number 413 because it's limited edition. I really like the trimmings, the way they are, kind of a vintagey look. Triple band there. You've got the branding there. Fabbrica Aurora Italiana di penne a serbatoio. So it's made by Aurora in Italy and it's a piston. That's what it tells you. So it's a piston filler. But there you have it. Just gives you a nice look at this beautiful pen. It is a little bit lighter than I expected, but we'll go through all of that in detail. These Aurora pens are just majestic. And I would say this is a grail pen because I've been looking at buying this for some time. So that's the Aurora International. What else have we got? Let me just close up a little more. The rest is kind of a revisit. But these Majon B25s have really surprised me. So I went out and I bought not only the red, but I went ahead and bought the green. I also have the blue in fountain pen, but I forgot it at the office. And it's the weekend and I don't want to go to the office just to pick it up. But I did have a blue that I purchased as a ballpoint or a roller ball. I forget which. I think it's a ballpoint. So there you have it. And figured I'd show you those and we'll do some writing with that. Will I put any of the inks that we just swatched in there? I'm not sure as yet. I'm still hesitant, especially with these pens because they're very, very fine nibs. But there you have it in terms of, so we've got my Aurora and, what a talk about contrast. This is $1,000 when all is said and done. And this is less than $10, I think. It's something like $12. And we'll take a look at how these things write but I can tell you I've had nothing but good experiences. But we'll be right back with the writing samples in just a few minutes. In addition to that, I also wanted to show you that I did go ahead and buy, let me just, a little more. I was so impressed by that Koji paper from Sterling, and I did have already a notebook that we visited together already, which is this one here. This was kind of a soft, leathery feel, and very, with the gold, I guess the gold accent here. It's a little bit thinner. I took a look at this. We did some swatching with this already. Very impressed by the way the paper is performing. That I said before they run out again, because I know they had run out and then they got some more. Let me get a bigger version, because I always like the thicker version. This one is more on the leathery feel. Well, this both leathery, but this is kind of soft leather feel, and this is a more coarse, rougher. Again, and rather than get the grid, I decided to get the lined version. This too is this has 500 plus pages, no dates, no nothing on it, just a straightforward numbering of pages. Opens up really nicely as well. Take a look. Of course, it's a thicker notebook, but I'm very happy with this so far. And I said before they run out, let me go out and buy some. So there you have it. I've added that to my collection of notebooks, and it's going to be seriously considered for the ultimate alternative to Tomoe River, Koji by Sterling. So there you have that. Now, what else have I got for you in terms of the haul? Yeah, I wanted to mention something. Last week we reviewed, let me just get it, this Fabriano paper, and I showed that the pages, kind of came off really quickly, and I thought that maybe it was a problem with the binding, but I don't think so. I think one of the viewers mentioned to me that these are meant to be, paper where you remove the pages, a little bit more like a notepad where you could just pull out the page easily. So this is the way this works. So it's not a defect in the binding of the notebook, but it's just the way this particular model, because it does come in various forms, works. So I did want to mention that, and I did not want to mislead anybody. I had another viewer also that asked me whether or not, if I compared the Fabriano to the Midori, which one is smoother. I would say to you that the Midori is much smoother than the Fabriano. They're both kind of tactile. You can feel when you're writing a little more than Tomoe River, but Midori is smoother than the Fabriano in my view. And let's keep in mind that I have not yet considered Midori as part of my list of alternatives, but it will be coming up. It's certainly planned to, because Midori is a very popular fountain pen friendly paper, of course, and it would be amiss of me, I can't skip that and not consider it, but I did want to give it its own separate platform, and we will do so shortly. That's it for the haul. Stay tuned for my next segment. Okay, now I'm not sure what's in here. I got what it could be. So where it's coming from, there's all kinds of countries, and I just have no idea what's in here. So why don't we just rip that open. There we go. Okay. Well, it's certainly packed well. What's in here? I have no idea. It doesn't look like ordinary, China packaging. Whoever packaged this wanted to make sure it got here undamaged. So I got a feeling it might be that Parker. It might be that Parker because it did come from I think a private, just an individual selling the pen. It was used. Obviously, they don't make it anymore. So, or maybe it's something else that I totally forgot about. I've ordered so much stuff that, okay, hold on here. Let's just, not a great unboxer. Is that a Parker box? There's no Parker indicated. This looks like a generic box for resale purposes. How does this open? Okay, it opens up this way. Ah, there it is. I knew that this pen was coming in. This is the original Parker. Now it's still cold. Just give me a second. We're going to clean all this up, and I'm going to kind of, polish it up and show it to you in a second. But it is the Parker. It has come in. So be right back. So here it is. The original. It's in the black. They come in different colors. Parker, made in England. That's very nice. Very similar, I got to tell you. Talk about a clone, right? We're probably going to do a separate review comparing these two pens in detail. Open up nicely. There's that nib, which is very different. Now, my recollection is that nib may have been, was it a stub that I ordered? I think it was a stub. Or it certainly looks nice and juicy and thick. The converter system is that I don't enjoy these systems, but it is what it is. It's kind of a vintagey pen, right? It's been around. It dates quite a bit. Hasn't been. I don't think they make this pen anymore. But there you have it. So now we can add that to the pen haul for the week. You know what? We're going to probably do take a nostalgic look at that pen and compare it to my B25 in a little more detail, maybe in an independent review. So there you have it. That's the haul for this week, folks. We're going to get right back to the next segment. Be right back. Okay, folks, I'm back. I couldn't resist. I need to see how this pen writes. I'm just going to write with it. I'm not going to make any comments because I do want you to watch my video where I'm probably going to compare this, do a deep dive into the pen and compare it to the Majon. But I just, felt that I maybe left you guys hanging there. But I'm just going to write with it. Okay? And stay tuned. Stay tuned. I'm going to do the same thing with my Aurora. I had to kind of show you guys. I like this mat, by the way. When you reach the bottom of these pages on a thick notebook, it helps. So this is the There's the Aurora. Stay tuned for my review. Now we're done. Next segment. Be right back. Okay, so we're back for Pens Revisited. Now, I got a couple of pens here that I'd like to revisit with you. First of all, I've got my 757 and my P20. Given the comparison video that I did this week, I just want to see how they're performing. I did not use these pens for a while since I basically recorded that video. I want to revisit briefly the Asvine V800. I've got a Lotus Arthur right here with a flex nib, and I got a bunch of vintage flex nib here to show you as well. And I'd like to just see how this pen's doing. It's been sitting in my drawers or in my box for a while now, and I'm wondering if it's dried up or if it's still writing. So those are the pens that we will revisit. I will go back to my Toma River notebook. Okay, so this is the Dieman. Sorry about that. I had to go back and check the precise name. Dieman D6 Han. That's why it was missing. Wow. 18 karat. Gold nib. Soft, wet, and bouncy. But I really mean bouncy. Akin to my Pelican M1000. I've got to take this pen out and write with it all week. With that Yamabudo ink. Just what a spectacle. Really, really nice, folks. I am so glad that I took the dive on this pen. Now, next. This is the P20, is it? They look alike so much that yeah, this is the Asvine P20. Let's see if it writes. I mean, I've seen better medium nibs on Asvine. Not the greatest. Is it? Well, wait a minute. Is this fine or medium? No, medium. Let me just give you an example of a much better. This one's got a medium nib, I think. Yeah. This is the Asvine. What a difference. V200 titanium, and I find this medium nib. Now, is it the ink? It's Yamabudo, so you know it's a nice wet juicy ink, but I prefer this medium nib. So you know, sometimes it's hit and miss, even with Asvine, and they're amongst the better nibs. What about my 757? So it wants to brag, it wants to clone, it wants to copy. Well, let's see if it still writes. Yes, no, it's not Asvine, sorry. It's HEMLOCK. 757. It's writing. Blue Galaxy. It's running a little bit better than my Asvine, actually. And of course, if you put in the Schmidt nib with this pen, well, then it becomes, I think, superior to the P20. But you pay a premium, and I'm not sure it's worth that premium. So they're still both writing. That's okay. Whoops, I noticed I was all completely out of focus here. Hopefully I didn't mess all this up. Okay, next, what have we got? Oh, I wanted to revisit the Asvine V800 for one particular reason, but while I'm at it, I figured let's write with it. How can anybody even doubt this pen in every respect, including, and Hemingway Jones in a short, and I see he likes this pen, but he's, there's some hesitation there. I noticed, he thinks it's nice, but, there's always a but. And one of the things he's pointed out, and I don't know if he's right, is that he thinks that band, and let me just get some magnets. He believes that band is not metal, but maybe plastic. And I know that he applied a magnet to the clip, and you definitely can see that it's steel, but when you touch that center band, there's no magnetic feel there. Now, is it plastic? I don't know, guys. Have you guys checked that? Hemingway seems to think it is. Now, let's look at these pens. This is the HEMLOCK. Definitely steel clip. But there you go. There's no sticky there. Not sticking on that band. So are these bands plastic? Let's take a look at this one. Well, the clip is clipping. Nothing there. But I said to myself, okay, what about more expensive pens? Now, I don't know if these are gold. Steel. This is my Karen. It's not sticking there. And it's not sticking on the band either. But on the clip it does. So does that mean that these bands are plastic? There's got to be a technical answer. And again, you know me, I'm not a technician. What about mind you, I think this is gold. This is my Aurora. Yeah, this could be gold. So it's not sticking. Just give me a second. This is my Mag 600 from Magna Carta. Well, it's not sticking on the clip. The clip can't be plastic. Nor is it sticking on the center band. So that raises a bunch of questions, doesn't it? What about my Legacy? Doesn't stick on the clip. And that clip, unless it's platinum or gold, doesn't stick there. Now, what about, do I have any other pens that I can test this with? Yeah, what about the Twisby that we just looked at? Sticks on the clip, but not on the center band. Can you guys explain? Is that plastic? Are these pens all plastic? Are we getting fooled, folks, into thinking that those center bands are in fact, I don't know. Let me have your thoughts. But that's why I wanted to revisit the V800. Now, in addition to that, I've got a bunch of flex nibs on these vintage pens that I'd like to take a look at. So why don't we start with the modern one, which is this Lotus Arthur, which is a beautiful pen. And it's got a fountain pen revolution nib. Inked it some time now, and I want to see if it still writes. So this is the, Lotus Arthur. Beautiful pen. Beautiful resin. And it's got a FPR Ultraflex. I think the fountain pen revolution flex nibs especially for their price, are among the best. Now let's compare. Some of you say, well, how do they compare with the vintage? Well, let's look. This is an OMAS Extra, a smaller version OMAS. Okay, this is not really a flex nib. There's some softness to it, but it's more of the stiff variety than the flex variety. It's not OMAS 360, OMAS Extra. But not the big Extra. I actually have the big Extra, but I don't believe that that was flex either. This is one of my Watermans. I forget which Waterman this is. Why can't they redo nibs like this? Problem with these pens, I'll tell you what it is this thing. It's just awful. Filling system. I have no idea how much ink I have in here. I mean, it's writing now because I just inked it. But how long will it last? Did I fill it? Did I not fill it? One thing I hate about these vintage. Another Waterman. Again, I just inked this. This one's a little bit stiffer, but it's got some flex. I would say probably a semi-flex. Yeah, I would say semi-flex. Then I got a series of, this one's what they call a Wilson. Let's see if this flex. I believe this is the Wilson, one of the more flexy ones. Yeah. But again, how much ink do I have in here? And look at what I end up with. I've got a box here with a lot of them. Let me just, that I got to fix. I got this is a Waterman, and I got to fix it because it's just not working. But look what happens to my, those I don't know what you call these, you know, I'm sure there's some ink in there, but I think what's happening is that when I put this in the pen, I think it's a screw-on, and it isn't. So I turn the pen to unscrew it, and I end up doing this to the, whatever you call this, the sack, I guess. But this is what I'm left with. Now I'm hoping it just comes back. This one's been sitting there for a while, and slowly but surely it's retaking some of its shape. But this is, you know, this is the problem with these, I think, these vintage pens. It's just, they're very, very quirky, and I'm never sure how much mileage I can get from them, you know. This is another one by the name of Johnson. Again, it's this lever fill. Is it flex? Yeah, it's a little thin. It's soft, but it's a very fine nib. But you can't flex it. And if you were one of those calligraphers, you probably get some mileage out of this pen as well. But I thought I'd show you some of the vintage pens that I have. I have others that I did not ink up. But when it comes to stability in terms of, you know what you're getting. It's Fountain Pen Revolution nib. Much cheaper than those. Works just fine for me, folks. Beautiful pen. Lotus Arthur. Comes in different materials. Peyton Street pens. Take a look at it. Really, really nice. So there you have it. Those are my pens revisited for this week, folks. And let me know what you think about this band issue. I'm going to keep checking with that magnet. Are we being fooled that all these good-looking bands are indeed plastic? Maybe Hemingway Jones has got something there. But it's just not on the Asvine, from what I can see. So if you have any answers, let me know. Let me know. Thank you very much. We'll go to the next segment. Thanks. Okay, we're back with the next segment. Now, again, weapons for next week always have a theme, or I get inspired by something, or pen, paper, or an ink, and from that I make my choice. I got a little bit inspired by the B25 and the Parker 25. You know, kind of starter pens, student pens, if you will, that are not expensive. Well, not the Parker 25. Parker 25 is expensive because it's vintage and it doesn't exist anymore. But the B25 is certainly, you know, I think $12, $15, but we'll get to that in detail. And I figured I'd go into my collection. You know, it's nice to look at all these $1,000 pens and, you know, $400 and $300. It's also nice to look at, you know, some of these Chinese pens that are not expensive at all in the scheme of things. 30, 40, 20, 50, 60 sometimes. Get a really decent writing instrument. And I said, well, why don't I take a look at all my non-Chinese starter pens? You know, I call them starter pens. Not expensive, student, pick it up and write, and, you know, nothing fancy. And we'll take a look at them, and I'll tell you which are my favorites. Okay? And then from that, we'll choose my weapons for next week. How does that sound? Good? Okay, so here they are. Let me just go to my overhead camera. And here they are. Now, this is just a sampling of the ones that I think are in the run, so to speak. There may be others, but these are among the ones that I want to consider and that I wanted to mention to you. The first one is this Endless Captiva. Okay? Now, this Captiva is $95. Sorry, folks. I don't think this pen is worth $95. It's cheap looking. This little gadget here is, my view, superfluous. It doesn't really serve a purpose. I just don't like this pen, so it's not going to make my weapons for next week, principally because it's $95. At $95, I can buy 3 Chinese pens that are much better than that one, including the Majon P25. Yeah, this is another one of mine. I mean, I have about 10 of these. This is the Pilot Metropolitan. I know it's a favorite of many. I just don't like this pen because it dries up. The nib dries up on me so quickly that I never use these pens. And it's too bad because I got these beautiful stub nibs on all of these, or most of them, that when inked, write really nicely. But the pen, at the end of the day, after a day or two, dries up. So Metropolitan, sorry folks, not going to make the cut. This is the Pilot Prera. I think this is a cute little pen. By the way, the Metropolitan goes for, do I have it here? Just looking at my, yeah, it goes about $30, $35, $37 Canadian. I can tell you, folks, you can get a beautiful, beautiful writing instrument, Chinese one, and maybe even others for less than that. So I'm not sure it's worth the price. And like I said, they dry up. This is the Pilot Prera, a little bit better, but here again, this little thing, from what I can see, costs about $50. Is it worth $50? I'm not sure. I'm going to put it in my weapons for next week. and we'll take a look at it. We'll do some writing with it. The next is Scrivener. You know what? Rather than me going through, why don't I write as I go along, and I'll tell you the price and my preferences. I can tell you that there's a Scrivener here. There's a TWSBI, two TWSBIs, the Go and the Echo. I've got a few Faber-Castell pens. Oh, I missed one. There's another one. 1, 2, and 3 Faber-Castells. This one here, which I think is called the Loom, is a real disaster. First of all, you got this grip that picks up all the ink, and I couldn't jar it open. It kind of stuck in there, and I couldn't get it out because probably of some of the ink, and it's got a red ink, and red inks, as I mentioned earlier, are problematic. It's a pity, but I just don't like this pen just because of that rubber section. So it's not going to make the cut, so we'll get rid of that. Then I've got my Lamy Safari. Well, you can't do this kind of an exercise without one. You've got my Kaweco Perkio, which I think is nice. You've got my Sailor Tuzu. We'll take a look at that. And we've got my Pilot Kakuno, which will make the list. So these three haven't. And of course, you can add to that. The Majon B25 that we just looked at. So those are the starter pens that I prefer in my collection, non-Chinese, and let's do some writing with them. Okay, here we go. Actually, we're going to put this there. First of all, the Pilot Prera. As I mentioned, the Pilot Prera goes for about $50. I think it's overpriced, but I know it's a favorite. So here we go. So this is there you go. It's not even writing. And I just inked it yesterday. Pilot Prera, $50. Well, okay, it probably just hard start there. I mean, it's got a decent nib. This is it a fine or extra fine? Oh, this is supposed to be a medium. But to me, it's writing like at best, a fine. It's a cute little pen, but I don't think it's worth $50. But it made my list. We'll see. This is Scrivener, one of their models. And let me take a look at my notes. This Scrivener is $70. So it's a little more expensive than some of the others, but certainly writes, in my view, you screw it in, I think? Yeah. Writes much better than that Endless Captiva. Really nice Schmidt nib. Scrivener, I think. I forget how it's written. Scrivener. So there's an E here and an I. This is blue. I'm not sure there's a name for this model, but the Schmidt nib makes it such that this pen is a joy to write with. Very well balanced. It is made out of metal, but not too heavy. Posts really securely because you screw it in. And it gives you a nice pen to write with. And those Schmidt nibs are an excellent choice. They're the number 5 on this pen. So for $70, and you know what? It's a good-looking pen. They come in different models. They come in different colors as well. You know, around the boardroom or anywhere, frankly, you're not going to, it presents itself really nicely. I think it's a good writing instrument, Scrivener. Next, I've got my TWSBI Go. A TWSBI Go, last I checked on the TWSBI site, is going for $30. So that's not bad. TWSBI Go. Oh, the Scrivener Blue, let me just put the price here, is $70. TWSBI Go is going for $30. not a terribly good-looking pen. It's got that kind of system where you push and it pulls the ink in. Not the prettiest of pens. Basic cheap plastic, you know. Got a nice nib. That's supposed to be a stub, but I got to tell you, it's writing like a very thin stub. Even on the thick lines, you got to really push to get the inks out. And it does have a tendency to dry up, unfortunately. But, you know, at least it's $30. So it's not bad. For value, I would say. However, if you're going to get a TWSBI, I think that, you know, this $55 one is the way to go. This is the TWSBI Echo. One of the smoothest stub nibs I have. It's at $55 on the website, TWSBI website. And, you know, it varies depending on the store. But this is my favorite Echo with this blue and kind of red gold color. Very, very nice. Very nice combination. And like I said, it's got one of the smoothest nibs, stub nibs in my collection. Very, very nice. Okay, now we get into Faber-Castell. Now, this Faber-Castell is is it the grip? No, this is the EXO. Okay, so let's finish off here. So this is Faber-Castell. Look at that. Just fabulous. EXO. Really, really nice. This is a broad. It's got a very juicy number 5 nib. What a writing instrument. For, what did I say? Did I give you the price? EXO, $50. It's also presents itself fairly well. There you have it. Nice looking pen. Very functional, stiff but functional clip because of its shape. You know, interesting finial, good colors. I think this is a great little pen. I got to tell you, folks, I prefer this one over the Lamy Safari. I really do. Does it post? I think it does. Posts very, very comfortably. It's a good-looking pen, but that nib is just absolutely, it writes so well. Now, this is the Faber-Castell grip. The grip goes for, let me just see my notes, $16. Okay? It's got a similar nib. Now, I just inked this. I'm not sure it's going to write because it doesn't have a cartridge converter. So it does take some time for the ink to go down in the cartridge. It doesn't have a converter, I should say. So this is the, okay, well, it's getting there. Faber-Castell grip. And it goes for, as I mentioned, $16. Now, it does not have a converter, but even if you spend even if you spend $20 on a converter, it's still, you know, $25 roughly. I think very much worth it. And it's got a similar nib to the EXO. There you have it. Oh, it's not focusing. Here we go. Nice little number 5 nib. Nice grip. I think it's a little too light. It doesn't post as nicely as the EXO. It's just a little bit too at the top, but it's so light that it doesn't really affect the balance of the pen. It's just, I find clumsy because it's long. But for $16, is it nicer than the Would I prefer this over the Lamy Safari? No. Lamy Safari, I think, would beat this EXO. We've seen the B25, but let's just write with it again. Yeah, folks, this is a nice little pen. We're going to revisit this pen just to see. I know this one's been sitting on my desk for about a week and a half, 2 weeks. No problem writing. And the B25, do I have the price here? I think it's about like $12 or something like that. So, if I'm not mistaken, worth every penny. But it's Chinese. And it's not really part of the list, but it's going to make my weapons of the week just because it's one of the pens that I hauled and that I received. Now, Lamy Safari, I know a lot of you are saying, come on, guy, Lamy Safari, it's an iconic pen. I agree. Well, there you go. Lamy Safari. I like this one. This nib is a broad nib. Is it broad or medium? Broad. Right, similar to the EXO. You know, I do like the triangular shape of the section. I just don't know what it is about these Lamy Safaris that don't get me to use them more often. Because, you know, they are a nice pen. I mean, I just prefer the Faber-Castell. I don't know what it is about this pen that turns me off or rubs me the wrong way. I just can't put my thoughts to understand why. I never gravitate towards it. This is the Kaweco, what do they call it? Perkio. By the way, the Safari runs about $30. Okay, this is the Kaweco Perkio. Beautiful nib. Got to tell you, the Perkios goes for $23. Worth every penny. A little light, a little cheap plastic, but writes just as nice as my Faber-Castell. Very nice. Does it post-it? Yes, it does. You know, post-it gives it a little more weight and makes it a little bit more comfortable, I find. But writes really nice for $23. So, good choice. Next, we're going to compare the section of the Lamy. I guess we have to put in the mix this Tuzu, I think it is, yeah, from Sailor, which has a very similar, functioning triangular grip, sort of, except that you could maneuver it so that it lines up a certain way. What I've done is, given that I have a tendency to turn my nibs this way, I've put the nib a little more towards there so that when I hold the pen, the nib is really straight. So this is I haven't inked this in a long time. Well, there you go. Sailor, is it Tuzu? T-U, yeah. I mean, I think this is a fine nib. Don't like the fine nib on this pen, but it writes similar to the Majon, and it's got that Sailor kind of feedback. Don't get me wrong, not like the gold ones, but it's similar. Okay, there you have it. But I think that's a nice choice. Is it a cartridge converter? Yes, it is. This Tuzu goes for $50. Okay, but a nice pen, but plasticky, presentable, nothing flashy. Last but not least is my Pilot Kakuno. Now, I know this is a very popular pen, especially with the youngsters. So this is a Pilot Kakuno. Now, it has a very similar nib. I think it has a similar nib. Well, it's a little different from, maybe it's the same nib as you find on the Metropolitan. I just find that they don't dry up in this pen as quickly as they do in the Metropolitan for some reason. This is a fine nib, but good writer. It's a Pilot, quality product. Again, very plasticky. And I think that's where a lot of people will say, Vincent, you can't, as much plastic as you'll find in the Safari, the quality of the Safari is just so superior to some of the other, very plasticky Kaweco, the Kakuno, even the Sailor. But between these two, I just like my Faber-Castell. And so I really like this pen. And it does find its way. And the way it just sits in my hand, very, very nice. I got to tell you. Light, but efficient, good looking. I really love this pen. And unfortunately, I gravitate towards the Faber-Castell a lot more than I do towards the Safari. So there you have my weapons for next week. I hope you enjoyed that. It kind of changed it up. It does, let me just switch. It does demonstrate one thing, though. When you look at these prices, $70, $50, $55, $50. Okay, the grip, $16 without a converter. The Lamy, $30. That's decent. Kaweco Prick, $23. But then you have $50. The Kakuno goes for, I think I forgot to mention it, for $20. So, not bad. But let me tell you, at these prices, you can really get some nice Chinese pens. Now, some of you might say, yeah, but Vincent, they're copies, they're Chinese, they rip people off, you can't trust them. Look, we've gone through all of that. You got some of just look at Asvine that don't copy, essentially. I mean, you can get some great looking pens for similar pricing. So, if you got to choose your pens and you have these weapons, and then you look at your Chinese collection, Hongdian, Majon, Wingsung, Asvine, Admock. I got Admock. The pricing is a little bit suspect in my view. They're overpriced. But the rest, you can find some very nice pens. In my Hongdian collection, you can find some gorgeous pens made out of titanium for less than some of these prices. So there you have it. Just gets to show you that sometimes you need to look back, go into your boxes, pull out some pens, do some writing with them, put them at the forefront, and then compare. And, when it comes time to get rid of some of the pens, I don't like to sell my pens, but if you got to get rid of any, I think it's a good way of doing things. Bring them all back, write with them for a while, and then bring some others back and make your choices. There you have it. Weapons for next week. Stay tuned for my next segment. Be right back. Okay, so we're back for the last segment, which is YouTube review. Well, first of all, what YouTube videos do I recommend to you this week? As I mentioned earlier in the recap, I think you should take a look at Doodlebud's video on this site by the name of Neokio that we went through. He goes through in a little more detail how it works and how it functions and his thoughts about it. And I think it's worthwhile if you're looking for an alternative source to buy your pens, perhaps at a better price. It looks like Neokio is a site to consider. I'm going to go through my own experience and we'll revisit that once all those pens come in. How do they come in? How much does shipping cost, etc., etc. They're a little quirky. It's a quirky sort of a website. You need to get used to it, but I think it's worthwhile. Secondly, Inquiring Minds got a hold of the 650 Gold Spot Magna Carta Steel Flex. He goes through his own assessment of that pen. So if you're interested and you're thinking about whether or not that steel flex may be worthwhile, well, you've got another reviewer, Inquiring Minds, that has looked at it. It helped me make my own decision, so stay tuned. I may actually get one, but I don't want that ugly green gold spot version. I think I'm not going to spend the money for that pen. I need to have a much nicer looking 650 or 600S. Eventually will come out. We shall see. We shall see. Third video I recommend is Mr. Inky Fingers. Many reviewers have been reviewing the V800. I think by and large it's positive, and Mr. Inky Fingers has his own assessment of those pens. He added 2 more V800s to his collection, and he's looking for, you know, quality control, consistency in the manufacturing, in the nibs, etc. So if you're interested and wondering whether or not that V800 is for real, take a look at Mr. Inky Fingers. I think you'll appreciate that. In terms of my own reviews, well, as you saw this week, we put out some shorts, but along with a comparison of the HEMLOCK 757 and the ASVINE P20. What is coming up? Well, we have that Aurora International that needs to be reviewed. We still have TWSBI's Obsidian, who keeps getting bumped away. We have my OMAS 360. We have my 5 favorite Ongdian pens. And we also have my Ebonite collection video that's going to come soon. But all of that eventually will get published. So stay tuned for that. In terms of videos that I'm working on, 2 things. I've noticed that there is a request by my viewers to look into pen storage. And I have many alternatives. If you look behind me, I've got all kinds of boxes, some that are more expensive than others. I think we're going to take a closer look at all those storage options for you and maybe make a comprehensive video on that. And I think, you know, what we're looking at is pen storage at a reasonable price. And I think I've got some products to recommend to you. So we'll do a video on that. I'm also working on a video, as I mentioned before, on my Pelican M series. Now that I'm hopefully going to get 2 more pens from Niokio or Nikiokyo, however you pronounce that site. Hopefully that will come in sometime soon, so we can do a comprehensive video on the Pelican M series and give you my thoughts on it. I've been using the M800 lately and the M200s, and I have my opinions. But stay tuned for that. I think that could be something interesting. I also want, now that I've received that Parker 25, I'd like to compare it to the Majon B25. You may see a video in that regard as well. So that's it for what's coming up soon in my own channel. And that's it for me. If you have not subscribed, please do. I want your comments, negative or positive. But if you like the video, please just, you know, press the like, press the alert, press the subscribe. We need to get to 10,000, and we need to get to 10,000 quickly. So thank you very much again for, if you're enjoying these recaps, let me know. And you know what? Stay tuned to the next video. There's always something new on Fountain Pen Therapy. Ciao.